They told me not to come. Said it would be easier for everyone if I just stayed away. It was my mother's 60th birthday. A milestone, a gathering of cousins and church friends held at the nicest restaurant in town. Everyone was invited. Everyone except me. There was no fight, no incident, no scandal. Just a message from my father that read, "Let's not make this about you." I didn't reply. I didn't argue. I booked my flight. You see, I've learned that silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just a placeholder for a truth people are afraid to face. My name is Sabrina Hale. I'm 31 years old. I co-founded a logistics AI company that's quietly revolutionizing how goods move across America. I don't code anymore, but I lead our operations, manage a team of 70, and close deals that reshape supply chains. On paper, I'm what you'd call successful. In my family, I'm still the disappointment. They think I ran away from home to chase some tech fantasy. They don't know I've built something real, something respected. They don't know a lot of things, but they were about to. Because what none of them expected, least of all my father, was that someone at that birthday party would recognize me. And not just recognize me, but stand up and say 7 words that would change everything. She's not just here, she's my boss. And that was the moment the story really began. I left Halbert, Ohio, when I was 21. Just one suitcase, one halfway finished degree, and a bank account that could barely cover a bus ticket. My father said I'd be back in 6 months, maybe less. I think he even bet my uncle $50 on it. Instead, I moved into a shared apartment in Seattle with 2 other women and more cockroaches than furniture. I worked night shifts at a warehouse and spent every free hour buried in supply chain data and open source AI code. It was messy, it was exhausting, it was mine. I didn't call home much. Every time I did, the conversation ended the same way. "You should think about moving back. We know someone at the high school. They're looking for a substitute math teacher." But I didn't want predictable. I didn't want safe. I wanted to build something that mattered. And 10 years later, I did. My company, StrataRoute, optimizes freight logistics using real-time machine learning. We reduce deadhead miles, lower carbon emissions, and save clients millions. It's not flashy work, but it's foundational. I serve as COO, and while I leave the coding to our engineers now, I'm the one who ensures our systems scale, our partners stay happy, and our team stays aligned. We're headquartered in Seattle, operate across 7 states, and recently closed a $22 million Series B round. Our workforce is diverse, smart, and fiercely loyal, not because I demand it, but because I show up for them every single day. But none of that impresses my father. To him, success still means Sunday potlucks and a husband with a stable job. My younger sister, Clarissa, did everything right in his eyes. She married young, has 2 kids, and works part-time at a local credit union. They live just 6 blocks from our parents' house. She hosts Thanksgiving, goes to the same church we grew up in, and posts annual family portraits in matching flannel. She's the blueprint. I'm the outlier. And over time, that gap between who I am and who they wanted me to be stopped feeling like a misunderstanding and started feeling like exile. There were no outright rejections, just quiet omissions. No direct insults, just family group texts I was left out of. I got used to it. At some point, I stopped expecting them to see me. I poured everything into my work instead. My team became my people. My board meetings became my proving ground. But no matter how far I rose, one thing never changed. I was still the daughter who left, the girl who said no to the life they'd drawn for her. That's why the text from my father didn't surprise me. It wasn't the first time I'd been sidelined. It was just the most explicit. And part of me, the part that had spent years carving her own path, read that message not as a warning, but as a challenge. Not to crash the party, not to prove anything, but to remind myself that I didn't need permission to exist where I belonged. I wasn't coming back to make a scene. I was coming back to be seen. The official invitation never came. Not from my parents, not even from Clarissa. I found out about the party through a forwarded email thread that had clearly made the rounds. Clarissa sent it with a casual note. "Did you get this too? Dad might have used his church account, LOL." I scrolled through the CC list. Uncles, aunts, retired neighbors, Even my old piano teacher. Everyone. Except me. I called my father. No answer. So I texted him directly. Just saw the thread. Can I RSVP? I'd like to be there. 2 hours later, he replied, Sabrina, it's best you sit this one out. Let's not make this about you. I stared at the screen. Let's not make this about you. That sentence rang louder than any slammed door. He still saw me as the problem, not the daughter who built a company from scratch, but the one who made things complicated by refusing to play along. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Instead, I poured myself into work. I had onboarding that Monday for 5 new hires. One of them was a junior analyst named Liam Brooks. The name tugged at me, but I didn't connect the dots until the morning of. Our office manager flagged him as early and waiting in the lobby, and when I walked past the glass doors, there he was, tall, nervous, wearing a button-down shirt that didn't quite fit, and clutching a company-issued laptop bag like a lifeline. Liam, Clarissa's boyfriend. He didn't recognize me at first. My hair was pinned back, my badge still on from the AI Logistics Summit I'd spoken at the day before. I was in heels and a tailored blazer, not the sweatshirt he might have seen on a family Zoom call. I stepped into the orientation room, greeted the team, and clicked through the first slide. Welcome to Strata Root. I'm Sabrina Hale, co-founder and COO. That's when he looked up. His eyes met mine. A flicker of realization, then shock, then something else, maybe dread. To his credit, he composed himself quickly, took notes, stayed quiet. But I saw it. After the session, as the others filed out, he lingered behind. Miss Hale. Just Sabrina, I said. Unless you plan to crash birthday parties, in which case I might require something more formal. He blinked, then smiled, nervous but trying. I had no idea. Clarissa never said. I held his gaze. She doesn't know, not really. He shifted his weight. Is it weird, me working here? Only if you make it weird. He exhaled like I'd granted him a pardon. I really wanted this job. You're doing amazing things. We are, I said. And if you're here to help build, not gossip, we'll get along just fine. He nodded. Definitely. And just like that, the line between family and business blurred, but not in the way anyone expected. In the weeks that followed, I barely saw Liam. He was working under Priya, one of our sharpest division leads. Her updates were short but confident. Smart, observant, a little hesitant. He'll catch up just fine. He kept his head down, always polite, always on time, always quieter than the others. He avoided eye contact in meetings, but never missed a deadline. It wasn't fear, it was calculation. He was still trying to reconcile the sister he thought he knew with the boss now standing in front of him. And honestly, I understood. That kind of shift takes time, especially when your family has painted someone in grayscale for years without ever seeing the color. Then on Thursday, Clarissa posted a photo. Mom under a balloon banner at church. Can't wait to celebrate our amazing mom's 60th this Saturday. Family is everything. No tags, no mention of me. Just comments from people who used to send me birthday cards and now pretended I didn't exist. Smiling emojis, inside jokes, and promises to bring pie. A celebration of exclusion, wrapped in nostalgia. I closed the tab and quietly booked my flight. Friday, during our leadership sync, we flagged an issue in one of our rerouting models. The system underperformed in high-density areas. A 2% drop in predictive accuracy may sound small, but to us, it meant tens of thousands in daily losses. Mid-discussion, I turned to Liam. You ran the base model test, right? He blinked, but held steady. Yes, the decay rate jumped in school zones. I think it's due to irregular stop-and-go traffic. A weighted adjustment might fix it. I nodded. Work with Priya. Get me a draft Tuesday. He nodded back, sitting taller than before. Not just responding, participating, earning his space. Later that afternoon, he found me by the kitchen counter, refilling his water bottle. Clarissa didn't tell me much, he said. Not about the company, not about you. I stirred my tea. People leave out what they can't explain. She said you always had to be the center of everything, he admitted. But I'm starting to think maybe you just refuse to shrink. I raised an eyebrow. When people can't control your path, they rewrite the story to fit their limits. It makes them feel safer. That way they don't have to examine their own limitations. He looked down. Yeah, that actually makes sense. That was enough. Saturday came. I arrived at Delaney's a bit late. The hostess frowned at the guest list, then waved me toward the back. The private room was full. Laughter, clinking glasses, comfort. Mom at the center, radiant. Dad beside her, loud as always. Clarissa glowing. Liam quiet, near the end. The room hushed when they noticed me. Dad leaned back in his chair. Well, he said, look who showed up after all. I said nothing, walked to Mom, handed her an envelope. Happy birthday. She opened it carefully. Inside, 2 first-class tickets to Vienna. Her dream. One she thought I forgot. One she thought no one remembered. Her hand went to her chest. Sabrina! Dad chuckled, dismissive. Always making it about yourself. Then Liam stood. She didn't make it about herself. All eyes turned. She gave your wife the most thoughtful gift I've ever seen. And in case anyone here doesn't know, this is Sabrina Hale, co-founder and COO of StrataRoute. He paused, voice steady. She's not just here, she's my boss. The room froze. Clarissa's fork clattered. My father shifted, but said nothing. I turned back to Mom. I won't stay long. Just wanted to see you smile. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Then I walked out. No argument, no drama, no grand speech, just one undeniable moment. And for once, not a soul in the room could look away. I didn't expect anything after that night. No calls, no apologies, just the usual silence, stretched a little thinner. But the next morning, as I was packing to check out of my hotel, my phone buzzed. Mom. Her message was simple. Sabrina, can I see you? Just us. I sent her the address. An hour later, she knocked on my door holding a plastic container of lemon bars, the ones she used to bake every Friday when I was a kid. She stepped inside slowly, eyes scanning the room like she was taking in a stranger's life. You always liked clean spaces, she said quietly. And you always liked sugar, I replied with a faint smile. She laughed, then sat down, carefully placing the lemon bars between us. I didn't know about Vienna, or the company, or any of it. No one told me. I looked at her. Did you ask? She hesitated. We were afraid to. Afraid you'd changed too much. I did, I said. That doesn't mean I disappeared. There was a long pause before she spoke again. We didn't make room for you to grow. We just tried to keep you close in a version we understood. And when you outgrew that version, we didn't know what to do. I didn't say anything. I'm sorry, she whispered. I nodded. I know. She looked around again. Can I visit you sometime? In Seattle? Yes, I said. You can. We didn't talk about my father. We didn't need to. When she left, she stood in the doorway for a long time, then turned back. He's not as cold as he pretends. He just doesn't know how to say he's wrong. I didn't respond, because sometimes silence is grace, and grace doesn't need to be loud. A few days later, I was back in the office, reviewing performance dashboards, when Clarissa called. I almost didn't answer. Hi, she said, voice tight. I don't know why I'm calling. Or maybe I do. I waited. Liam? He couldn't stop talking about you after the party, about how you handled things, how calm you were, how respected. I said nothing. I think I hated you for a long time, because if you were strong, and I resented you, that meant I was weak, and I didn't want to feel that. You're not weak, Clarissa. You're just still finding your shape. We all are. She sniffled. I'm sorry I never asked about your life. I think I didn't want to know. It's okay. No, it's not. But maybe we can start over. You're welcome anytime. Before hanging up, she added, I'm proud of you, Sabrina. Not just for the company, for being who you are, and never making me feel smaller for not being the same. That, more than anything, was the closure I never thought I'd get. The envelope was waiting for me when I checked out of the hotel. No return address. Just my name written in familiar blocky handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. Sabrina, you turned out different than I imagined. Maybe better. I don't know how to apologize for all the ways I dismissed you. Maybe I don't deserve to. But your mother says you're building something real. And I believe her. You always had that stubbornness. I mistook it for rebellion. Turns out, it was vision. Dad, no warmth, no flourish, but no denial either. And that was enough. 5 years later, when Mom turned 65, we hosted the party at my house. The patio was lit with string lights. My chef prepared her favorite crab cakes. Liam brought a slideshow of old family photos. Clarissa brought the cake. My father came too. He sat quietly most of the evening, watching from the corner with tired eyes and folded hands. Then, as the guests drifted inside, he approached me on the deck. "You built something," he said. "Something real." I didn't respond. He pulled something from his jacket, a photo, worn, faded. Me at age 10, building a company out of shoeboxes and index cards in the garage. On the back, in his handwriting, "Turns out you always knew." I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just hugged him, not as a daughter still needing permission, but as a woman who no longer did. Inside, laughter rang through my living room. Wine glasses clinked, and for the first time, everyone was there. Not because I begged them to come, but because I'd built a life strong enough for them to return to. I kept the photo. Framed it, actually. It sits on a shelf in my home office now, right next to another frame, smaller but no less meaningful. A yellow sticky note someone on my team saved from that night at Delaney's. Liam had scribbled it after the party, left it on the break room fridge the next day. "She's my boss." Simple, direct. 7 words that didn't just tilt the room that night. They tilted something in me too. Because for so long, I'd measured my worth by absence. By who didn't call, who didn't notice, who didn't ask. I thought proving myself meant waiting for their approval to finally come. It never did. And then it didn't matter. Because somewhere between missed birthdays and sleepless board meetings, I stopped trying to be understood and started building a life that didn't require explaining. I stopped performing for a seat at their table and built my own. And that changed everything. Not all at once. There were no cinematic moments of transformation, just small shifts. A quiet mother at my kitchen counter finally asking questions. A sister daring to see me clearly. A father who, after years of silence, handed me proof that he'd been watching, even when he couldn't say the words. That's how healing works. Not always loudly, not always neatly, but honestly. I didn't reclaim my place in the family by arguing my value. I reclaimed it by becoming undeniable. And I didn't get revenge by being cruel. I got it by standing in my truth long enough for them to catch up. 5 years after that forgotten invitation, my home became the gathering place. Not because I insisted, but because it was a space that welcomed people back without asking them to pretend. That's the legacy I'm proud of, not the job title, not the valuation of my company, but the fact that I stood still when the world told me to move. And in doing so, I became a landmark they could find their way back to. So if you're listening to this, and you've ever been made to feel like your success doesn't count because it doesn't look like someone else's blueprint, if you've ever been written off, cut out, or quietly erased, let me remind you of this. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't need permission to be powerful. And sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is grow so fully into yourself that the people who tried to minimize you end up needing to expand just to meet your gaze again. Build so well they can't look away. My name is Saren Vale, and 3 nights ago, my sister looked me dead in the eye during Christmas dinner and said, "Give back the $90,000, or you'll never see Mom again." No warning, no lead-up, just that. I was holding a glass of wine, halfway through a breath, when the entire room fell silent, forks mid-air, eyes shifting toward me, like a jury that had already decided the verdict. My mother sat quietly at the head of the table. She didn't speak. She didn't even blink. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was an ambush planned and practiced. But what they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment too. Not with threats, not with rage, with receipts. Because when your family tries to erase you, one dinner, one story, one lie at a time, you don't scream, you don't beg, you document, you remember. And then, when the time comes, you let the truth do the talking. I'm not here to win them back. I'm here to finish the story they tried to rewrite, without me in it. It happened at exactly 7:12 p.m., just as we were finishing the roasted duck and passing around the pear salad Kaya always pretended to make herself. My wine glass was resting on a coaster I'd brought from home. Ceramic, hand-painted, a quiet reminder that I'd contributed something to this evening. Kaya stood up suddenly, her chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "Give back the $90,000, she said, each word like glass cracking in slow motion. "Or you'll never see Mom again." I blinked. Once. Twice. I looked at her face. So calm. Almost rehearsed. Desmond set down his fork, carefully, like this was a script he didn't want to fumble. "And Mom? Eleanor?" She didn't even look at me, just picked at her napkin, like it was a crossword puzzle. The room fell into a hush so thick I could feel the air tighten around my ribs. My Aunt Shirley glanced at me, lips parted slightly in confused horror. But no one said a word. No one asked what Kaya meant. Because they already knew. They had planned this. My chair, positioned just slightly outside the perfect ring of the table, suddenly made sense. The awkward seat placement, the missing name card, the wine bottle never making it back down to my end. None of it was random. It had all been arranged, and I was the only one who hadn't been told the part I was playing. I tried to steady my breathing. My hand instinctively brushed my purse beneath the table, fingers grazing the envelope inside. Not yet, I thought. Let them finish the scene. Kaya's voice rose again, syrupy with fake concern. "We just want clarity, Seren. The estate statements don't match. You moved the money last year, said it was for hospice care, but we never saw the bills. You can't expect silence forever." I kept my voice flat. "You think I stole from her?" "No," Kaya said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We're not accusing, we're demanding. There's a difference." Desmond chimed in like a backup vocalist. "We have records, we just want our share." My share. That was rich. My hands were cold, my wine untouched. I looked down at the tablecloth, ivory, pressed, spotless, and realized that I wasn't angry yet. I was hollow, like the part of me that used to care about their opinions had been scooped out long ago, and I was just now discovering the vacancy. I glanced toward Mom again, still no eye contact. She adjusted her bracelet. That tiny motion felt louder than Kaya's entire performance. They didn't want an explanation. They wanted a confession. And when they didn't get it, they wanted a spectacle. But I wouldn't give them either. I reached for my water glass instead, took a slow sip, and said nothing. Because the truth? I wasn't afraid of losing them. I'd already lost them years ago. I don't remember the exact moment I became the invisible one in my own family. It wasn't a single event, it was erosion. Quiet, consistent, like rain slowly wearing down stone. There was the time they printed the family reunion photo and left my name out of the caption. Or the church recital, where Kaya read the poem I'd written, word for word, without credit. Or the tribute video at Dad's memorial, where my segment vanished and hers grew longer. Those moments didn't scream betrayal. They whispered it. But that night, as I sat at the table being accused of stealing $90,000 from my dying mother, the whispers turned into a chorus. What they didn't know was this. The money didn't come from the estate. It came from me. It was nearly 3 years ago. I'd gotten a call from Dad at 1:38 in the morning. His voice was thin, trembling. They denied the final round, he'd said. Medicare wouldn't cover the clinical trial. He was scared, not of dying, but of telling Mom he'd relapsed. I know I don't deserve it, Seren, but if this gives me even a few more months. I didn't hesitate. I wired the money that same night, $90,000. My savings, no receipt, no documentation, just a desperate act of faith. And I kept it quiet, because that's what he asked. Don't tell your mother, it'll break her. He died before the treatment ever began. I didn't ask to be thanked. I didn't even tell anyone. Because back then, I still believed that doing the right thing would eventually be seen for what it was. But I was wrong. I sat through that Christmas dinner, listening to Kaya demand proof I'd never prepared, accuse me of betrayal I'd never committed, while the very woman I'd protected, Mom, sat 5 feet away and said nothing. The thing that gutted me wasn't the accusation. It was the silence. That kind of silence doesn't happen overnight. It builds over years. Every missed acknowledgement, every moment when I was the one doing the work behind the curtain while someone else took a bow. I remembered the handmade scrapbook I gave last year, a collection of letters, photos, and clippings from Dad's final months. I had stayed up 3 nights to finish it. I wrapped it in navy blue paper and wrote a note on the inside cover, for the man who taught me to hold steady when the world tipped sideways. Kaya handed it to Mom with a smile and said, I thought we could finally honor Dad properly. She didn't even flinch as she took credit. No one questioned it, even when my handwriting was on the bottom of the page. Small, neat, dated, even when I froze in place, even when I opened my mouth, then shut it, afraid I'd look petty if I spoke up. So I didn't. I swallowed it like everything else. That night, at the Christmas table, the same scrapbook sat on the buffet behind Kaya, open to a photo I'd taken in the hospital, Dad smiling through tubes. It felt like a joke, like I'd been rehearsing for the wrong play. And then, Junie appeared beside me, 9 years old, innocent, eyes wide. Aunt Seren, she whispered, did you really steal from Grandma? I blinked, stunned. What? I heard it, she said. You take credit for stuff, but it's okay now. We're not supposed to talk about it. I wanted to scream. Not at her, but at the fact that even the children had been taught to mistrust me. That's when I realized. This wasn't carelessness. It was character assassination. Whispered over casseroles, baked into traditions, delivered one hint at a time until even the next generation believed it. And somehow, I'd let them. But not anymore. After the dinner, I didn't go home right away. I drove around aimlessly, the streets still glowing with leftover holiday cheer, as if the world had no idea mine had cracked wide open. I ended up in front of my apartment, without remembering how I got there. Inside, I dropped my coat on the chair, sat at the kitchen table, and just sat. My mind wasn't racing. It was methodical, unfolding facts like blueprints. I powered up my laptop, not out of impulse, but instinct. Years of auditing reports and unraveling misappropriated budgets had trained me well. And what I needed now was not comfort. It was clarity. That's when I remembered the backup drive. It was tucked inside a drawer I hadn't opened in months. A small silver thumb drive with a faded label that read, Dad, Hospice. I plugged it in. The files loaded slowly, folders dated, labeled, meticulous. Transfer logs, scanned invoices, even call summaries from every doctor I'd spoken to. And then I saw it. A PDF titled MVP_transfer_90k.pdf. I opened it. It was a record of the wire transfer I'd made to Mountain View Hospice Trust. Date, amount, routing number, everything. From my personal checking account, not the estate, not Eleanor's, mine. I stared at it, a cocktail of relief and fury flooding my chest. This wasn't just proof. It was protection. They thought I didn't keep receipts. They thought wrong. But I wasn't done. In a folder marked estate_communications, I found something else. A scanned copy of the original draft of the will, dated 4 years ago. My name was listed plainly. 40% of the estate, along with specific notes from my father about items from his study, meant for the one who remembers. I grabbed the envelope Kaya had handed me the week before. Just an update Mom wants everyone to have. I laid both documents side by side on the screen, and there it was. The signature. Eleanor's handwriting had always been consistent. Looped L's, upward slant, a steady baseline. But the signature on the new version? Slanted backward, shaky, the L completely wrong. It wasn't hers. I dug out an old birthday card Eleanor had written me in October. Compared the signature, no match. I exhaled. Then I whispered to the empty room, "You forged our mother's signature." The shock didn't rattle me. It sharpened me. This wasn't an emotional collapse. It was a shift, like ice solidifying after a long thaw. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't waiting for someone to save me. They thought erasing me from a will would erase me from the family. That removing my name from paper would erase the proof of everything I'd done, everything I'd carried. But I still had the paper, and I still remembered everything. I began building the timeline, dragging files into a new folder, labeling every document with precision. Then I reached for my phone and typed a message to someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. Me. "Hey, I might have something for you, just hypothetically." She was a compliance attorney with the district attorney's office. We weren't friends, but we'd been through audits together. She knew I didn't cry wolf. Her reply came within 60 seconds. Her. "Got time after the holiday? Coffee or war room set up?" I smiled for the first time in days. Me. "Let's say both. I'll bring the files." I didn't walk into that house like a victim. I walked in like a ledger balancing itself. The second dinner was supposed to be a truce. Desmond's idea. "Let's just clear the air," he'd said. "Start the new year without drama." I didn't laugh when I read the text. I just packed my files and wore the earrings Dad gave me the year I landed my first executive audit. Small, silver drops. His idea of elegance. This time, there was no folding chair. A proper seat had been added. But there was still no place card for me, just like before. The message hadn't changed, only the method. Kaya greeted me at the door with a practiced smile. "Glad you came. We just want peace, Seren." I nodded once. "I brought something, just in case Truth wanted to join us this time." Her smile twitched. Dinner started with cautious small talk. Desmond asked about my job. Mom commented on the cranberry glaze like it was a newsworthy breakthrough. No one asked why I'd come. No one asked if I was okay. So I waited. I waited until the dessert plates hit the table. Until the second pour of coffee. Until the moment everyone felt safe again. Then I reached into my bag and placed my phone in the center of the table, face down. Kaya raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" I looked her in the eye. "Insurance." I tapped play. The room fell silent as the first voice came through, clear, undeniable. "Don't dust the side drawer. That's where she keeps the backup. Will said she'd clean it up before anyone noticed." It was Maribel, Mom's longtime friend, recorded during a phone call 6 months earlier. She had no idea I'd kept it. Eleanor's spoon paused mid-stir. Kaya's shoulders stiffened. Desmond stared at his plate like it held the answers. I tapped again. Kaya's own voice played next, lifted from a wine-soaked backyard conversation. "She'll probably cry and disappear. That's her thing. Besides, once it's in writing, it's real. No one checks signatures. They just sign where I say." The sound of her laugh in that moment felt like gasoline poured across the tablecloth. No one spoke. No one moved. I took a sip of water. Then I pulled a sealed envelope from my tote and slid it across the table. "This," I said calmly, "is a formal report, prepared for the district attorney's office. It includes financial records, forensic analysis, and witness statements. You have until New Year's." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't beg for understanding. I simply stood, pulled in my chair, and adjusted my coat. Kaya opened her mouth, but for once, no sound came out. Desmond blinked like he was waking up from a dream. Mom, Eleanor, watched the candle flicker like it was the only thing keeping her rooted to the room. "I won't make a scene," I added, glancing at her. "You've all had enough of those." And I walked out. Outside, the cold bit through my sleeves. But I didn't rush, because I wasn't fleeing. I was done pretending I owed them more than the truth. I should have known Kaya wouldn't let it end quietly. 3 days later, my phone rang just after sunrise. It was HR from my firm. The voice on the line was clipped but cautious. "Hi, Siren. We need to speak with you urgently. A recording surfaced overnight. It's sensitive. Legal's already involved." A link followed. I sat frozen at the edge of my bed, thumb hovering. The moment I tapped play, I knew. It was my voice. Only it wasn't. I adjusted the records. Doesn't matter, they'll believe me anyway. The voice was mine. The tone, the cadence, the clipped pauses I'd trained myself to use in boardrooms. But the words? I'd never said them. Not in that order, not in that way. It was a fabrication, expertly spliced, digitally scrubbed, context ripped apart and rearranged. Someone had taken raw audio from years of conversations and built a weapon. Kaya's final gambit. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The old panic rose fast, cruel and familiar. What if they believe her? What if all the files I've gathered, all the truth I've secured, isn't enough? But I didn't fold. I went into that office with every receipt, every metadata chain, every forensic flag ready for inspection. They listened. Compliance pulled in outside experts. Audio forensics confirmed tampering within 48 hours. I wasn't suspended. I wasn't reprimanded. I was cleared, quietly, professionally. But my trust? That was gone for good. That night, Desmond knocked on my door. No warning. Just wet hair, a hoodie, and eyes that had clearly not slept. "She took your recordings from Dad's bedside," he said, holding out a thumb drive. "She chopped them up. I found the project file. I didn't help her, but I didn't stop her either." I stared at the drive in his hand, then at him. "You thought she'd rant and move on?" I asked. He nodded, ashamed. "Is it too late to fix it?" I didn't raise my voice. "No," I said, "but you're not the one who gets to fix it." Then I closed the door. Later that night, I forwarded everything, his files, my backups, the voice comparison logs, to my firm's legal team and my contact at the DA's office. The verification came quickly. Forgery, tampering, digital fingerprints that led straight back to Kaya. Then I sent a clean copy of the entire case, labeled, timestamped, notarized, to a civil litigator I knew from a decade ago, one who worked directly across the street from Kaya's PR firm. I didn't want headlines. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted record. Because they thought they could rewrite the story. But I'd kept the original. I didn't return to that house again. Not for Easter, not for birthdays, not even when the neighborhood newsletter announced Eleanor had moved into assisted living. Kaya was suspended within days. No statement, no spin, just silence. Desmond relocated, sent a single text that read, "I don't expect forgiveness, just, thank you." I saved it, not for him, but for myself. A reminder that even the quiet ones eventually feel the heat. Junie, though, started spending weekends with me. No court orders, no drama. Just a backpack, a toothbrush, and a girl who still trusted me. We made new rituals. Waffles on Sundays, sketching on the porch, her feet never quite touching the floor. One evening, she looked up from her drawing and asked, "Why don't we go over there anymore?" I didn't rush to answer. "Because," I said softly, "sometimes a place stops being home, even if your name's still on the mailbox." She nodded, like she understood more than she should, then went back to shading in the sky with blue crayon. Later that night, I opened an old box I'd moved through 5 apartments, but never unpacked. Inside was the olive green handkerchief Eleanor always claimed she'd thrown away, embroidered with a single M. She hadn't thrown it away. I'd seen it in her purse the night she sat silent. I laid it on my nightstand, not out of sentiment, but clarity. A week later, my firm promoted me to lead a new initiative, one I'd quietly pitched months ago, a financial literacy program for women disinherited by family manipulation. Every session began with the same question. What was the first thing someone took from you, without asking? Someone always cried. Not out of grief, but recognition. I didn't need a trophy for this. I just needed the silence to end.